Does that mean healthy?
Thank
We're
goodness
recording?
for makeup.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Just kind of.
We're recording?
Meeting, please come to order. Barbara, please call the roll.
We have Commissioners Berard, Funderburk, Levine, and Noonan present.
This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. My opening remarks were going to revolve around water and rain, but I think that's going to be covered by others. So I will dispense with any opening remarks of my own. We have two general public comment cards.
Okay, the first speaker is Doug Chavage. Am I pronouncing that right?
Doug Crago.
Oh, Craig?
Crago.
Crago, sorry.
I came here asking for your help. I like the LA Smart Grid program to answer some questions. They've not replied to any questions I've sent them since early January. I've been sending my questions to the right email address, smartgridla@ladwp.com. They did answer questions in 2015. So I called my city councilman, Paul Krikorian. His assistant, Patrick, got in touch with somebody at the DWP. I gave him my questions I wanted answered, and then Patrick's told me that they would get in contact with me, but that did not happen. So I submitted my questions again. Once again, no response. I submitted a records request for the letters DWP sent to customers in the pilot areas who were scheduled to receive smart electric meters. The records request came back saying nothing could be found. It was rather strange to read that the DWP could not find those letters. So I'm wondering what else I can do to get my questions answered, and that's why I'm here asking for your help. Thank you.
Thank you. I wonder, Council, can someone speak with him and help him figure out how to get his questions answered?
Certainly, I think Marty could direct the smart grid person to him.
Yeah. Do you have any? Yeah,
Riggle.
Okay, the next speaker is Kent Minalt.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here this morning with some friends. Actually, some of them, I'm not sure they're getting here because of the traffic and the rain, but I'm here to ask for a little help from you. In the wake of last year's electric car drive-in ride in Watts that many of you helped with, the Sierra Club has developed a close working relationship with St. John's United Methodist Church in Watts. And Pastor Larry Dozier, whom I hope will be walking to the door any moment now, he's opened his doors many times for meetings and strategy sessions, and most importantly for the Watts Clean Air Forum on January 26th. Commissioner Funderburk, thank you so much for your participation and your contributions there. But we were all shocked during the forum to learn that several guests had their cars broken into in the parking lot. Well, our friends in Watts weren't so surprised. Break-ins aren't that uncommon there, and several friends in the community have been working on public safety improvements for quite a while there. As we see the equity metrics report completed, we'll start to talk about implementation. St. John's United Methodist promises to be an important venue for further conversations and gatherings on this issue. Can you provide high-intensity lighting for the church's parking lot and surrounding areas on Graham Street, basically from 103rd Street Metro Station in the north down to the Watts Towers on 107th? This would really help further some important work that's gotten a great start there. Thank you so much for your continuing help on this.
Thank you for all of your efforts also.
Okay, we do have one more card for Lizette Hernandez.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lizette Hernandez, and I'm with the My Generation campaign of the Sierra Club. And well, thank you for having us here. I am one of the key organizers of the My Generation campaign, and as it relates to South LA and just Southern California in general, actually. So as my colleague had mentioned, we did have a couple of great events in Watts to try to address, you know, the gap in investment in clean energy and whatnot. And so, as you know, low-income communities and communities of color such as Watts and South LA face a disproportionate level of exposure to environmental contamination in our air, water, and soil. our air quality in particular has been of concern as we face higher rates of asthma and other health issues. I'm also a South LA resident and a mother of an asthmatic. We held a community forum, as Kent mentioned, on January 26th to discuss the effects of these cumulative impacts and to advocate for stronger clean energy and polluter regulations, particularly with the Air Quality Management District. We also invited DWP Commissioner Burke, who was kind enough to receive our invitation, and he shared some of the positive programs that are available to the community and people are really excited about. And as Kent mentioned, unfortunately, we did have some break-ins, and the church is right across the street from the historic Watts Towers, which is a World Heritage Site. It's also across the street from the Metro 103rd stop, Blue Stop, I believe. And even as a woman, I don't feel really safe there. And some people were shocked that the cops took about 20 minutes to get there. That's kind of par for the course in the neighborhood. But the point is that we want to make sure that, you know, we have some of this inequity addressed, and would like to request high-intensity lighting and other, you know, safety amenities that could improve the safety and public health of the community. Thank you so much, and thanks again, Commissioner Burke.
Thank you.
That was our last card.
Okay, we move to General Manager's report.
Pastor, those who just arrived, if you could make a comment.
Okay. Good timing. This is called a stage entrance.
If you-
about these things.
If you could fill a card out after you speak for me, sir?
Sorry?
If you could fill a speaker card out after you speak for me?
I'd be glad to
Oh,
do
okay.
that. I was handed that as I walked in.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Larry Dozier. I am the pastor at St. John's United Methodist Church. We call ourselves the Church in the Heart of Watts, with the Watts at heart. A few comments I'd like to make here. I want to request a high-intensity lighting around St. John's United Methodist Church. And of course, that's right across the street from the Watts Towers and the 103rd Street Blue Metro stop. We want to advocate for access to solar energy and programs to that effect in the Watts and South LA community. I'm a relatively recent assigned pastor to St. John's, and just since I've been there, I've been finding, working with the several groups that low-income communities and communities of color, such as Watts and South LA, face a disproportionate level of exposure to environmental contamination through air, water, and soil. And recently we held a forum at my church to address these issues. And we also invited DWP Commissioner Funderburg to that meeting. It was a very good meeting. We had more than 100 individuals from the community and various organizations there. Unfortunately, after that meeting, there was a bit of vandalism to some of the automobiles there, which is another thing that we wanted to address, and that's high-intensity lighting at the church and in that surrounding community. Now, as I mentioned, St. John's is just across from the Watts Towers and a block or so from the Metro stop there. But if you were to walk from my church to that Metro stop in the evening, it's very dark. And around the church, it is dark. Now, we have some lighting there, but it would be so much better if we had intense lighting shining on the church and away from it to cover those streets around that church, because there are incidents of that sort is pretty common there. And to my thinking, the Watts Towers, of course, is this tourist attraction, and you've got these three major entities there, and that my church is one of the largest in the area. And it would just be great to have great lighting there. So what I say to the community is, I love to have this church lit up like a Christmas tree all year long. And it would act as a deterrent. And of course, I'd love for DWP to use our church as a pilot site. You know, and especially with solar lighting, just all around that church, and whatever other environmental projects that you have. We'd like to work with you to enhance this community, dealing with solar power and, of course, making the environment better with regulations for the polluters and the like. So as a new person to that community and one who's involved in that community, I seek your help. I seek to cooperate with you. And I think a most immediate way would be to place this high-intensity lighting there as something that you could point to say, these are some of the things that we are doing. And this can be an ongoing relationship, and I look forward to having this ongoing relationship with you to make our community a better place for all of us.
Well, we thank you very much, and a belated welcome to Los Angeles.
Thank you very much. I've been in LA, but I've just been in another area. So,
okay.
But thank you very
belated
much.
welcome to your new church.
Thank you very much. And I invite all of you to come sometime. 1715 Santa Ana Boulevard North. In fact, we have a concert Sunday at 4 o'clock. Come on down.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Marty, you're on.
Thank you. So Dave Wright is out representing the Department on Business right now, so it's a pleasure to try to keep things going while he's here, while he's not here. We just have a few things today. First of all, I know we have some new division heads in both the water and power systems, so I know the folks leading the systems would like to introduce them to the board. So Rich, would you like to introduce your new personnel?
So within the water system, we have 5 divisions, and 3 of them have new division heads as of last month or so. I'm going to ask the 3 gentlemen in the front to stand. They represent water resources, water operations, and water distribution, the 2 other divisions being water quality and water engineering and technical resources. On your right is a face familiar to you, and you may be wondering why Dave is standing up. Well, we officially made water resources its own division, and that results in a promotion, actually, Dave, to this top level of division head. And so obviously he has been providing leadership to that area for a very long time and doing a great job at it. And so Dave is now the head, as a division head, of, with all its rights and privileges, of water resources. Standing next to Dave is...
What are those rights and privileges?
He handles all the headaches that I don't want to.
They're not so good.
And all of Commissioner Funderburg's questions, 2 in the morning kind of thing.
Yes.
In the middle is Anselmo Collins. Anselmo backfills my position as the division head in water operations. Up to this point, he has been leading one half of that division, which is the metro operations. Operations is basically all the moving parts in the system. So he's got, in metro, he had all the pump stations, tanks, reservoirs, and all the treatment stations. He now is over all of the aqueduct system as well. That's the other half of that division. So he will become soon the face of Owens Lake. That's the rights and privileges that he gets. And then Mr. Breonna Lindsay is the head of our water distribution division. He currently was the assistant division head of that division. Mr. Keith Session just retired the 1st of this month, and so Breonna steps into that position and was formerly, I forgot to ask, what yard were you superintendent of?
A couple of different ones, Central District and Western District.
Okay, so he's covered our busiest ones there. So we're pleased to have these gentlemen with us and lead us into the years to come. So thank you, guys.
Welcome. Congratulations. I assume, Rich, that with all the water that we've recently received, these guys are going to have an easy time now, right?
You'll notice that other than the Dave, we got the hairline correct for. Now, power's a little different. So Andy Kendall has a couple of new division heads in the power system he'd like to introduce as well.
Yeah, in the power system, we have 2 new division heads. Actually, one new one that has been the interim. So if Brad Packer and Jay Pucklovitz will stand up. So Brad Packer is now the division head for our power and fuel purchase division. Brad brings 31 years of department experience to the position, managing and dealing with our customers and our partnerships at IIPP. So Brad is a talented manager, and we're looking for good things from Brad. So congratulations, Brad. Jay Pucklovitz has been acting in the interim role for the past 18 months. He stepped into my role moved into this assignment. So originally Jay was going to retire here March 1st, but he's accepted our invitation to stay for another year.
After last weekend, I don't know. You might think twice.
I think his time's up, so he can't change his mind now, so thankfully. So, but Jay also brings 31 years of experience to the department, and he manages the power transmission and distribution. So he and his folks were really busy this last weekend. So again, Jay has been doing this role and doing a really good job for the last 18 months, and I'm happy that he has decided to stay because he is truly an asset to the department. And with that, we've hired a new assistant division head for Jay, which is a Mr. Dan Barnes. He's not here. But,
Well, congratulations
thank
to
you
both
both.
of you guys, and you did a wonderful job this weekend under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. And I know I speak for the entire board when I thank you for not retiring at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time every year, we recognize one of our recycled water customers as the Customer of the Year. So I'd like to turn over to Rich and his folks to recognize the 2017 Recycled Water Customer of the Year.
And we established this award to recognize our customers that make extraordinary efforts to increase their use of recycled water. All of our recycled water customers in our service area were considered for the selection of the award this year. The award is selected by staff from Water and Power, Sanitation, and 2 stakeholders from One Water LA. And it's my privilege, and we are pleased to present this year's award to Los Angeles City Department of Recreation and Parks. Yay, you can all clap. Rec and Parks has been a customer of recycled water since 1982 in the Griffith Park area. An interesting statistic for them is they use recycled water in 76% of all their golf courses, with a goal of meeting 85% use of recycled water on the golf courses, and they have a plan to get to that very soon. They are our largest Purple Pipe customer in the city. And so Tom Gibson is going to say a few words. And Tom, we will present this award to you here. I think the box is actually as cool as the award. But why don't you introduce your team as well, Tom? And
Sure. On our team here, this is Dana Valdez, who's head of our Smart Irrigation Training Group. Our superintendent, Kathy Santo Domingo, and Robert Oyakawa, one of our landscape architects as well. So we want to thank the Commission on behalf of our General Manager in the Department of Recreation and Parks for this partnership we have. It's an ongoing partnership to bring recycled water to our city parks and golf courses. We really appreciate this pat on the back, and we want to say thank you also to the leadership provided by Marty Adams, as well as the divisions we work with the most, which is your water recycling group and also your water conservation group. So thank you very much.
thank you, Tom.
Congratulations. We're deeply appreciative and very proud of what you're doing.
If I could add one thing, we work closely with Tom. He does landscape architecture for a lot of the parks. We have a lot of engagement in turf removal, other projects. Sometimes we have water and power properties that we're turning over to Rec and Parks to become park space. So a lot of close involvement. And Dana, she's the unspoken hero. She actually runs a program where Rec and Parks hires at-risk youth and puts them to work for 6 months and gets them training as they actually re-landscape and put in new irrigation systems at the major parks. And this is under an MOU that we have with Rec and Parks. We fund a lot of that program for new irrigation systems and turf removal. It allows these kids to get hired, then after 6 months they actually get an interview with Valley Crest Nursery and move on to productive careers. So we really enjoy our partnership, and it's great to be able to recognize them. They do a great job with recycled water, and we're a very close team in this, so congratulations.
Thank you, Marty.
They should come up here, or we should, how does the...
Yeah, let's come up, have them come up over there.
Why don't you all come up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. If we can move that one chair out of the way.
Okay, everyone, get cozy a little bit here. Okay, very nice. Oh, and yeah, bring that. Yeah, the paper's kind of. There you go. Very nice. Okay. Let's see how we look here. Okay, here's the first one. Big smile, everyone. Let's see how we're looking here. Okay, a couple more. Looking great. All right. Here we go again. Good smile. And here we go again. It's good. And one last one. Big smile. Excellent. Thank you.
Congratulations and thanks again. All right. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keeping with the theme of water resources, commissioners, at your desk, you also see a calendar here, an 18-month calendar. This is the result of a partnership that we have with the Los Angeles Times to promote a water and energy curriculum in the classroom. And they have an annual art contest as part of the Los Angeles Times in Education program. And there were 379 entries from grade levels 4 through 12. In each one of those grade levels, there's a award winner in here. And what we do with these is that we will hand these out through various events that we have throughout the year. And we will also be giving them for council offices and their staff and any other use that you may have of those. So enjoy them, and they're really quite talented if you take a look through them.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, so on to some very pressing issues from this last weekend. There's no doubt we had a lot of impacts from the storm that hit us beginning on Friday. I've asked Andy to give a brief update for you. I know you received different press notices from Joe Romalo and other emails throughout the weekend, but I asked Andy to kind of summarize what all occurred and what our response was to the whole issue.
So as you all know, we had the rainstorm that began on Friday. Each of these storms we face is kind of different depending on intensity and sort of how they form. In typical storms, typically we get sort of a building up after a day, and if it rains a second day, we tend to get more. In this case, with the drought, I've been kind of talking to Marty and Dave about, when we have a big storm, we're going to have tree issues. And because of the drought, prolonged drought, we have a lot of dead trees out there, and just rotted branches. And that once we got a prolonged rainstorm with winds, that we may face something like this. Now, we were out doing proactive trimming on our trees, the trees that we trim, but many of the tree issues we had weren't trees that were necessarily in proximity, but fell over from across the street, or branches blew in. So in this case, we were in the morning as the rain started, it was pretty good, and then the wind hit about 10:30 in the morning, and then we just got inundated that first day with a peak of about 85,000 customers out in that first day, and that's typically different from what we see in a normal storm. Now, this was a bit compounded in the first couple of days. Our crews who are out working on our power system reliability program have been working weekends pretty much every weekend since the middle of last year. So this weekend was their first scheduled non-working weekend. So many of them who have been here every weekend had made plans to go away with their families and spend much needed time with their families and to take a break. So if you on the peak of the storm and the crews, Friday, that first day, during the day, we had 121 crews working in the field, which is about 900 employees. On the other days, we peaked out each day, even though the need was there at about 83. crews each day because, like I said, many of those crews had planned to be away from the weekend. So storms typically when they hit on the weekend are a little worse for us because it's the worst time for a storm to hit because people are home for the whole weekend, and it's more of a direct impact on our customers. So again, the peak day, which was Friday, we had approximately 85,000 customers out. Over the total of the storm, we had a little over 162,000 customers out for the 4 days of the storm. We worked, crews anywhere from typically 16 to 17 hours a day on their shifts. We have a 16-hour rule in place for our employee safety. And then on Saturday, we worked with IBW Local 18 and worked out a deal to bring some of our contract crews in to work on the storm. So we're appreciative of them for agreeing to that, which helped us to bolster our staff with our crews. One of the things that it's tough when we get big numbers like that, because once you fall behind, we usually bring crews in early and get them started so we can keep up with the storm. When we get hit that much and you fall behind, it's nearly impossible to catch up. So having those crews come in was a big impact for us on a positive side. On a normal weekend, our trouble board will take about 300 calls to about 500 calls. On an extreme weekend, maybe 1,000 to 1,500. During this storm, they processed over 18,000 calls and a total of about 800 incidents. We had great cooperation with both our Energy Control Center, our dispatching group, our substation operations group working in the stations. We relied heavily on the Customer Service Division call center to, once we got into the storm, once you get partway through, now you're trying to figure out if jobs are actual jobs still or were they part of a bigger job. They helped us immensely with calling customers back to determine if their lights were still out, so we could use our resources as efficiently as possible and not send crews to jobs that were already completed. So they were very helpful. We did have one issue that we're working to figure out why it happened and how we correct this in the future so we don't have it. Is our server, all of our trouble jobs are managed through an outage management software program. And on Saturday, that server crashed. So at that point, we were back to doing things the old way with paper and pencils. So they worked very hard to get that system back up in place. So we're doing an analysis of that to determine what happened and why, so we can put systems in place to have a backup so that doesn't happen again. That impacted our response greatly on Saturday. So, but otherwise, I feel like our crews performed very well. We're going to do some lessons learned meetings this week, as we do after every storm, to see what we can do better and how we can improve this. And we don't like having customers out as long as we had customers out in this storm. But I said our crews did the best they could. Again, some of them canceled their plans. Many of them canceled their plans to come in and work because of the responsibility to our customers.
Where do things stand now?
As of now, we're back to normal. All of our customers are back on from the storm. And again, now we're just kind of getting back to normal. Our line crews are out, getting back to doing the routine, normal, everyday work. And again, we'll be meeting this week to figure out what.
Are we expecting another major storm?
As of now, it's drizzling a bit right now. I think this is supposed to be small. There is, when I looked this morning, rain forecast again for Sunday.
And is that likely to have the same kind of?
If it's just rain, no. Rain and wind. Typically the first big rain and windstorm takes out a lot, and we've had some rain before, which caused some issues. Back in January 20th, we had a storm that was fairly major and caused outages. It's interesting that up in Northern California, and we participated in one mutual aid event with PG&E, but this weekend they asked for 100 crews to come up in the system. Again, we were busy this weekend, so we couldn't help them. But it was a pretty major storm, and the fact that we've been in drought so long, hopefully this will get us through it.
Yeah, I happened to be in Sacramento for the day on Saturday, and the rivers were like I had never seen them before up there, and I wondered what impact that may have on us.
So far, I mean, Rich and Marty can better answer that on the water side. But I know for me, I left here at 2 o'clock on Friday. I live in Acton, which is from this building to my house is 54 miles, and it took me 4.5 hours to get home. I sent Marty and them a picture of what I called the Laurel Canyon River. I mean, the streets were just inundated with water.
This is one of the issues for emergency response, and something that we hope to really bring to light more, is that it's not just that we have such a large area to cover. We were on our way during the week to an off-site meeting, and when you drive through the valley, you hit Valley Circle and you realize you're finally leaving the city of LA. And so our area is so immense. But on top of that, just getting around in an emergency, not only the crews working, in high winds and rain in the middle of a bunch of power lines, but just getting from place to place is very difficult. And so, there's the crews that go and check on things, and the guys that come in and actually do the repair. And like Andy said, it was a huge effort coupled with customer services to try to make sure when people get their power out, is it this home, is it this neighborhood, is this area, because you want to respond at the proper level, and then working with our control center to try to analyze where those problems are, whether it's just wires down, whether we have a transformer problem. We had a number of underground splices that took a lot of searching to find. Those were associated with kind of a tail end of some other problems that occurred. So it's not necessarily easy to find out what these problems are during the daylight on a dry day, and so during darkness on a very wet day, it's dangerous work. And what are you saying, Andy? Probably had at least 600 to 900 people out all weekend long that working. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, one of the things that requires follow-up on our part is our outage management system, so that we know what type of job is groups, customers, by the number of calls and where they're at. So a single customer may have had an outage and called in, and then if we had a larger outage on that same circuit, then they would have been also grouped into the larger outage. So the assumption is that they were the first call of the larger outage, so that when we restore that circuit, the assumption is that they get done. So that's where that they're back on. So that's where having customer service there to assist us in calling them back sort of helps us understand what type of outages we have and what kind of response we need. So.
Commissioner Barad.
Thank you. I want to commend you and your crews for working through the night in a very difficult situation. But I have some questions regarding the trees. When you say you prune the trees, is that DWP or is that Bureau of Street Services? How does that work?
We trim the trees that are in proximity to our power lines. So anything either on the parkway or on a property line that is within 2 feet of our power lines, we trim. If it's a tree on a customer's property that's not within proximity, we don't trim that. It's the customer's responsibility to keep their trees trimmed. And then trees on the parkway that are not within proximity of our conductors, then street services would do that trimming.
Because, in some of the older areas, like where I live, Sherman Oaks, we had a lot of branches down all over, and it's an older community with older trees, and the roots are just, spreading all along sidewalks. And you look with the wind, I was just going out seeing what was going to happen, and hopefully, a tree wouldn't fall on my house. So I'm just wondering, is there a way for the city to become more proactive in kind of pinpointing where there may be future problems with some of these older trees? Because you can see, I saw on TV that they just lift it up.
Well, yeah, I think it's depending on their schedules, their timing. I think customer information, customer input, right, helps to know. I know in some of the locations we went to where we had trees down that, the customers had told our crews that, they had been calling about the tree for a while. It's tough. There's a lot of trees out there within the parkway that they're responsible for. So I think there's always work that can be done to be proactive, but without knowing specifically their staffing
Yeah.
levels and stuff, it's
So
hard to
if
speak to
someone,
that.
if there's a tree near a power line, then our customers then would call DWP?
Yeah, they could call DWP. We trim all of the trees within the power lines on a schedule.
Oh, you
So
do?
we have all the trees on a schedule and a yearly cycle that we go through and trim, both with contract crews and our own department crews. So we do that on a schedule. If a customer has concern of a tree in specific that they are concerned about, then they can call DWP and we will send a crew out to check.
And Andy, our trimming is generally to make sure that there's clearance around the power
Clearance
lines.
from the power
And that
lines.
something's not going to fall on the lines or cause a fire.
Okay.
And this is one reason we have specialized tree trimmers, because we don't want anyone who just trims a tree to
No.
go up there because there's clearances, and we don't want people getting electrocuted trying to trim a tree. So we do that work ourselves. I mean, I know the street is inundated with work for street tree trimming just in general, and I don't know that there's an easy solution for that. We did have the one fatality on Sepulveda where someone was electrocuted by a wire that came down. The tree that took the wire down was actually across the street. So that's something that would not have been in our bailiwick at all, but it actually fell across the street and knocked a power line down. So, you know, it's with the drought and ailing trees and everything from bark beetles on up. You know, I think we're seeing a lot of issues, but you know, with the winds, it's always a challenge. Andy's talking about palm fronds. That wet palm fronds flying in the wind become short circuits everywhere. I mean, you've seen them fly, what, quarter mile or so?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them fly for blocks away. They're high enough, and they get into the wind, it's like a sail, and they just spin. And, you know, and they can sit there all year as long as it's dry on our conductors, and it'll be fine. That first time the rain comes, then they cause our circuits to relay out. So we do inspections, and we do patrols for that to take them
And then
down.
those have to be physically cleared to reuse
Right.
as so.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
Sure.
So Rick's going to give us a little bright side of the storm. So Rick, you want to tell us what's going on with the water?
Yeah, it's really wet out there. And all over, including up into our eastern Sierra. You know, I'm looking at a chart here of our weighted average of the Owens Valley snow courses, and we are 268% of normal to date. This will end up being our wettest year, no matter how you measure it, whether it's the 82, 83 snow pillow year or 1969, just in terms of the wetness. What's interesting is we're basically hit the 82, 83 wettest year, but we've hit it in the middle, end here of February, and in that year it didn't hit the peak until the middle of May. So what's interesting to note is that in these big wet years, and that's basically the pattern we get. You know, we'll go 7 out of 10 years will be dry in Southern California, and 3 others are just these big gully washers that we have. But we've hit that peak so early, and it's too soon to tell whether we're going to keep on going up and up. But there are still a series of storms out there. It's the wettest that we've had in the Owens Valley as well, where we're getting rainfall probably average of over 250% of normal in the Owens Valley. Even here in Los Angeles, we're 181% of normal to date and 118% of where the year ends in September. What's interesting to note is that this now comes after the 4 driest consecutive years that we've had in our Eastern Sierra. And within 2 years, we've had the driest year, which we did 2 years ago, and now the wettest year. So it's just the years just fluctuate wildly. And this year was predicted to be another dry year. So go figure. So whereas storms like this don't affect Los Angeles directly, obviously in the Eastern Sierra, our response is also a little bit delayed. And our response to these storms is basically how to take that water in. And what this record snowfall and rainfall means for us is that basically we're going to end up having at least twice as much water as we consumed last year as a city. And so our challenge this year is where to put all that water to beneficial use. So possibly maybe in a future session we can kind of lay out for you all the different strategies on how we're going to use that water. But it is a tremendous challenge. It's a blessing, obviously, but we're almost a victim of our own success in that the city has learned to conserve so well that to be able to find a place to put this in storage and beneficial use is going to be challenging. And this is after that we will probably do record spreading up in the Owens Valley as well to all of our ranchers and environmental projects, and really recharge as much as we can the Owens Valley groundwater basin.
Thank you so much for that update. One of the comments that I was going to mention is I think it'd be very interesting to do kind of a case study on the Oroville Dam for a couple of reasons. My understanding is that a lot of the water in the past has come down through the aqueduct, and so I think it's important to learn from the mistakes that were made there. And given the heavy rainfall that we do have, how is that affecting the aqueduct? And even though we have invested a lot of money in all of our reservoirs, I think it would be helpful, given the situation, to kind of address any concerns that we have with any of our dams and reservoirs.
I'm glad you asked that. We will prepare an update, both as Rick's talking about storing water, but also the condition of our reservoirs and what we're doing, what some of our plans are, as well as providing some information on Oroville and what we see. Because there's been some recent questions about the impact of Oroville and the State Water Project on LA if there's some kind of failure, or the levees as well. So we're preparing some information for you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm specifically interested in learning more about if I appreciate you referencing that typically there's 7 moderate dry years, then 3 heavy rain years. Given the heavy rainfall that we have experienced, should we consider creating additional spillways and connections to nearby rivers? And I know that that ties in very closely to the work that we're doing in Owens Valley, so I think that'd be interesting.
Okay, we'll bring that to you.
Thank you.
That's all, sir.
That's it? I thought you were just getting started.
I'll stop while I'm ahead.
Thank you, Marty, and everybody. It's been very helpful. Comments from commissioners on agendized items and requests from commissioners relating to departmental operations. Are there any?
Had some.
You have some?
Yeah.
Okay.
First, in addition to going to Watson, I would invite all of the commissioners to stop by at some point while they're on the commission. All of the economic and other vibrant activity that's happening in Watts, and the work that DWP is doing, that we're doing to support not just the Watts area, but the entire South Central and the entire corridor there, because I think a number of the things are very exciting and tie in, have supplemental benefits to the community related to the community's health. There's a reason that the average life expectancy in Watts is 72 and the average in Bel Air is 82. And that is environmental reasons. And that's not our individual faults, but that's the institution's faults that have been governing in the past. So we, I think, as an institution, should take pride in the work that we're doing and continue to do that. And also, I think, connection with the communities in and around Watts, which happen to be predominantly non-white Latino, are experiencing a lot of things over the past few months, and a lot of feelings. And I think to be reached out to by every one of the commissioners at some point would make those communities feel much less threatened, much less fearful, and much more embracing of the institution that we have. The second thing is I also attended the Jacaranda Park opening, and Andy Kendall right before the storms, and echoing the other commissioners' phenomenal job. I think it was in the preparation as much as it was the execution, because Andy could only stay at this event for not very long, not even long enough to, turn over a shovel full of dirt. And he had to get back to prepare the crews for what they executed this weekend. But Jacaranda Park is a 5-acre parcel under our power lines that DWP has entered into an arrangement to convert. It was just bare, pretty much bare land to convert to a fairly massive park. So turning a park into greenway in an area where the urban heat island effect is really detrimental, where the tree canopy is atrociously low, 7% in South LA, South Central LA. This is not Watts, this is west of Watts, for those unfamiliar with the geography. But 7% versus areas like where I live, where people here live, Palisades, Hancock Park, Bel Air, Beverly Hills, everywhere else, 30 to 40% tree canopy. So this is going to increase the tree canopy, and it's a great going to be a great benefit to the neighborhood. The other specific comment I had for you, Rich, on the rainfall numbers is, as delighted as I am to hear that we're getting more rain, it seems that we have a plumbing and distribution issue that our commission's going to have to address with greater investments into moving the stormwater to where it can be infiltrated and recharge our aquifers, which are plentiful storage reservoirs underground. And the issue of climate, because I was talking to a former commissioner last week, and he said that it's interesting that it's rained more, or we've had more water equivalent, but it hasn't come down all in snow because of the climate change that's taken place. So 268% of normal, what's normal now is we're in a new normal. And so I think that having climate-adjusted numbers would be really helpful for the policymakers to make their decisions, and just remind everybody that we actually need more snow than we got before, because it's melting faster. It's melting earlier, and so that I think that would be incredibly helpful. So thank you again for the work you did this weekend, and Andy, you did a really phenomenal job, and look forward to seeing that report. Rich, Marty mentioned the levees. Most people may not have followed it, but in addition to the Oroville Dam, there was the levee break that took place yesterday, and that impact on the State Water Project, I think, needs to be addressed in the form of, well, I don't know how it will be addressed, but I think that we, as a commission, in carrying out the mayor's objective to reduce our reliance on imported water by 50%, can take a lot of positive steps to add belt and suspenders on our in-basin water storage and capacity, so that if these breaks or other catastrophes happen, we won't be as susceptible to them, because we will have a built-in resilience to our system. So thank you.
Other questions or comments from commissioners? Ratepayer advocate.
No comments on agendized items.
Okay. Policy discussion. Presentation and discussion regarding earthquake-resistant ductile iron pipe.
So we have later on the agenda item number 18, the purchase of such pipe, and we thought it would be good to give you a little bit of background of why we're selecting this pipe and what we aim to gain out of using the pipe. So I've asked Dr. Craig Davis, who manages water's infrastructure resiliency efforts, and along with Cree Horner from our water distribution division, to give a presentation on our earthquake-resistant ductile iron pipe.
And you may recall when we had Dr. Lucy Jones and Dr. Ken Hudnut here about a month or so ago, talking about our resilience program. So that was kind of an overview of what we're doing in terms of the water system overall. This is one of the actual discrete elements of that program, of how we're actually putting those ideas into practice.
Thank you. I'm Craig Davis, as mentioned by Rich, the Water System Resilience Program Manager. We're going to give you just a quick overview of the earthquake-resistant ductile iron pipe. I provided 2 different models to Mr. Harisick. I didn't mean to overlook Dr. Pickle or those if they want to see it. I just wanted to hand them politeness to my management. You might recall one of those models actually sent around. It's that gray one that you're looking at, Commissioner Noonan, back in December when I presented. But as those go around, I'll pick them up from Mr. Brevich when they're all done, if you want to pass them forward that way. So to move forward into the presentation, I just want to draw to your attention maybe your memory back from December when I gave a much larger presentation on the resilience program, that the use of this and other types of resilient pipes are part of the recommendations directly from Mayor Garcetti, identified in the Resilience by Design report that they prepared. And more specifically, it's in their recommendation to develop a seismic resilient pipe network. This earthquake-resistant ductile iron pipe is essential for achieving that. And what that really entails is trying to develop, or developing, we aren't going to try to, we're going to do this, an arterial network of resistant pipes where we can have more reliability throughout the city that will be incorporated with our pipe replacement program. So here I want to present to you just a quick overview of how, I need to move seats, a video on how this pipe actually performs. So what you see is that it elongates, it shrinks, it rotates. You can see a cutout very similar to the model that is being passed around. It rotates significantly. So you might think about ground waves moving through and moving the pipe during an earthquake. You might think of landslides, liquefaction, fault rupture, and causing this type of movement. And what you observe there is something that's very different than what our standard pipe installations are. This pipe, as you see, allows for axial movement and rotation and locks into place, which doesn't exist on any of the pipes that we commonly install. Here's just some photos.
Once it locks into place, doesn't that inhibit the movement?
No, after the movement. So if the movement attempts to be exceeded, so if you were to pull on that joint, so it's set in the middle where you have both axial tension and compressional movements. If it wants to pull apart, instead of breaking and pulling the joint apart and allowing the leak, that would be a failure in the pipe system. It locks into place and then it has a certain resistance to pull to utilize the extra capacity on the next joint. So it acts kind of like a chain if you think of loose leak chains, but loosely together rather than being tight. So this is just some photographs from Japan. It's actually from a monsoon. So it's an erosional landslide that occurred. You see, I don't know what the actual movements are on there, but maybe 10, 15 feet of movement. That pipe still is functioning. This pipe, over 40 years, they have 4 different primary models. You've seen 2 of those, and I'll show you where they're being used in our system. It's never been damaged, nor a documented leak. The pipe just keeps functioning. It's impressive, and there isn't any other pipe known in the world that does that.
That's the pipe laying down in the soil, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, how long has this type of pipe been in existence?
In Japan, it's been used for more than 40 years.
40 years?
4T.
4T.
Yes.
And given the very, very insightful discussion that we had with other utilities and the pipes that they were using, are there any national municipalities, utilities that are incorporating this pipe?
Yes, there are a number of utilities that are following our lead. When we initiated the initial pilot studies for this, I personally inquired with San Francisco, East Bay Mud, and in Oakland, Portland, Seattle, and others, and they wanted to see how we did, but it was immediately successful. Before we even finished our first pilot project in 2013, San Francisco and Portland actually had initiated, based on our success, some pilot projects as well. So there are, I don't know the exact numbers, but maybe 10 different companies along the West Coast that have installed some of this pipe so far.
And the first time we began using this pipe was in 2013?
The first installation was 2013. We initiated the program in 2011.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, how does the price point compare, just on materials, to other pipes that we've used, you know, in these general areas?
This particular pipe is made of ductile iron, which is basically the same formulation we have in the United States for ductile iron. So it's,
yeah, but the cost price point, out of curiosity?
The cost for each project is about 10 to 15% greater than on average
Okay.
than the normal project from the initial numbers that we have so far. Here's a more specific example from the great magnitude 9 earthquake in 2011 in Japan. What we're showing here is a liquefied area in Tokyo Bay that occurred from the shaking from the 5th largest earthquake ever recorded in the world. It was extremely severe. This is in the city of Urayasu, and Urayasu is famous for having Tokyo Disney, so it was built from the 60s on to present. And the pipes are relatively modern, if not completely new. They chose in the city not to use this type of pipe, so not all cities in Japan actually use earthquake-resistant pipes. What you see in the red dots are the pipe breaks and failures, the joints pulling apart or other types of failures, and which led to complete loss of that water system. What Tokyo Disney decided to do is to not rely on the city water supply. They wanted a greater reliability. They installed their own personal earthquake-resistant ductile iron pipe of about 28 inches in diameter. You'll notice there are no red dots. That it does overlay some other red dots because the dots are larger than the pipe breaks, but there were known, Disney actually continued functioning due to their seismic preparedness even after that great earthquake, even though all the rest of Tokyo Bay was not necessarily functional. I think that's a great testament to the capabilities of the pipe. Here's an example of...
Excuse me, I'm sorry, which pipe of the ones that we saw was that?
That would be closer to, so the 28 inches, it would be equivalent to the gray one, although it was an earlier version of that they've now replaced with this gray one.
Okay, thank you. No, I can't, I saw it.
Here is an example of what we're going to be installing starting, I believe, later this year or earlier next year, and that's a 54-inch trunk line. First large diameter trunk line crossing a fault ever installed outside of Japan using the earthquake-resistant ductile iron pipe. So it's a very large diameter pipe. It's actually being used and incorporated into a known predetermined pipe replacement program to upsize and renew the foothill trunk line, which is about 80 years old and deteriorating. It crosses the fault that ruptured in 1971. You can see the fault rupture and the blue line where the foothill trunk line, both units 1 and 2, are being placed. We're currently installing unit 1 with welded steel pipe. That's the portion that doesn't cross the fault. The portion that does cross the fault is going to be used with the black pipe that I sent that had the bolts. It's a larger and it needs diameter, and it can't be used with the slip joint, but it needs a mechanical joint. They both have the same type of performance and history. This is one of the most complicated fault crossings in the world. Normally it's very small. A fault crossing would be considered like across this line here, a matter of feet, maybe a block or so. This one's extremely unique and complicated in that it's over 2 miles long. So most people, when you hear pipes crossing faults, they're thinking of maybe a block distance. We have unique challenges in Los Angeles, and this pipe was the only one found to be cost effective to be able to actually withstand the amounts of movement that we're expecting. So this pipe, the fault ruptures up to 3 meters and about 10 feet. So in a very narrow band where it does rupture the ground surface, but that band keeps recurring over a 2-mile stretch, so it's very complicated. We analyzed this using more advanced numerical models, hired some consultants to help us look at all this and make sure that we were looking at it. And even though the earthquake pipe has impeccable performance in history, it's never seen this extreme type of movement. So out of precaution, we actually added some additional flexibility to the standard joints. So at the fault crossings on each side of the faults, we're adding an additional 10% of movement, I think it is, using what they call the large displacement absorption pipeline system. Again, something that's unique from this, for these types of pipes. And as mentioned earlier, we've been implementing a pilot program or continuing that pilot program. So this map shows where we have already installed pipe at the 5 different locations identified in blue, 1 in each district. There are a number of other projects proposed to be using for the mainline projects, which is basically 20-inch diameter or less. Here, I think we're mostly looking at 12 inches to 6 inches. And you see the critical facilities of which we're intending to install this pipe around in the future, in the very near future. And these pipes will eventually link up into what we're going to be developing as a seismic resilient pipe network. We have to take it one step at a time. And then lastly, just want to give you one final video identifying its physical performance. This is a crane lifting the pipe. You see it gives an example of its flexibility, its strength in its joints, its ability to hold itself. Imagine large landslide pushing one end of this pipe, and this is a 12-inch diameter pipe. And that's using the joint that was identified in the gray model. And that is the conclusion of our presentation.
Well, I applaud the department for being open to looking at new technologies in terms of our infrastructure and piping. Out of curiosity, the agendized item talks about different LADWP construction crews being trained to learn how to install this piping. Is this technology going to be taught by the Kubota Corporation? How are you going to go about designing? Who gets the expertise of learning how to put this pipe in? And are there any guarantees or insurances in terms of the installation of the pipe? Because I've heard many times that sometimes something goes wrong with the pipe, and many times it's because of the installation, because it's a newer model that our crews aren't knowledgeable with.
Right. So there is a slight difference in the way the joints are put together. From the onset, it's not just our crews, but our engineering staff as well. As part of the pilot project and the pilot program that we're implementing, we have worked with the Kubota Corporation and have our engineers design and lay it out in mapping and get quality assurance from Kubota Corporation, which is basically on-the-job training. We've actually had training sessions for the engineers. We move that forward into the crews. So we have our own SIMAR training center. The Kubota Corporation has actually come and effectively trained the trainer. And we work with Kubota Corporation to train them. We have the pipes in at the center to have our crews practice. So far we've only done this periodically, right? It's not on a production level. So each crew that is going to install this pipe has come for special training or even retraining if necessary. The reason why we had the first 5 projects installed in each of the 5 districts was because each of these districts are effectively larger than most cities or water companies. And so we had 5 independent opinions on how this was installed at 5 completely different hazard type locations and street conditions, meaning dense utilities. One was actually installed right here on Temple Street, right outside our building. New, old, and so on. So, and they've basically been released on their own. There's 2 things to implement these after they've been trained. There's 2 important aspects that I think it would be helpful for you to understand. One, we have broken the record on the most rapid installation of this pipe of anybody in the world, including all the Japanese, per Kubota Corporation. 2, the Kubota Corporation, we ask for more help than the Kubota Corporation thinks that we need. They say we're better at it, and we have very well-trained crews, and they pick up on this very rapidly. And they're even innovative in very unique conditions in their ability to find ways to install around utilities that were not expected and so on. There have been a few times when we needed to call on the Kubota Corporation, and they have always come to help. Their policy is to help with quality assurance, and they've given us a tremendous amount of support in that area. However, with so many different agencies across the West Coast wanting to utilize this pipe, they've been drawn thin because they don't actually have a pipe station here. They're looking to make one in the city of Los Angeles so that they could actually use that as a base for helping not only LADWP but everybody else across the country that is trying to use this. So they've been very responsive, but our crews have been very capable, exceptionally capable in being able to undertake this different type of jointing. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Noonan?
Well, with all due respect, I find it a little disconcerting that Japan has been using this technology and this pipe for 40 years. We've been using it for 4 years, and supposedly we're better and more, you know. To me, it's not how quickly it gets done, but how efficiently and well it's done. So I find it kind of interesting that even though we've only been doing it for 4 years and they've been doing it for 40 years, they're saying that they're learning from us. But
in some ways, they've actually stated that. Whether that phrase has actually come from some of the Kubota Corporation's employees' mouths. Now, whether they're trying to make us feel good or it's actually the truth, we can use our own judgment there. But we need to caution ourselves, knowing what you just said. It is very true. But what is also true is that we have very well-trained crews. They understand how to implement different pipe jointing systems. They just have to understand what that system is,
yeah.
and they can implement it readily.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I bring this up is because, you know, years upon years, I kept hearing that we kind of kept using the same kind of typical steel pipe, and a lot of it was because our crew wasn't trained, and just the investment that takes can be laborious, and so sometimes the investment in new technology wasn't as openly considered as it is being now. So I just want to ensure that you feel comfortable working with this company, since you state that they're a sole provider, that we are being trained correctly and incorporating it on major trunk lines for Los Angeles.
Commissioner, one thing we are doing is, you know, we have a ever-increasing mix of materials we're using, and we are increasing use of plastic pipe in certain areas. We've done a job down in Venice area recently where we had a lot of corrosion issues, and so you know, so the crews are getting familiar with different technologies. Craig and his team are also looking at this plastic liner of the Elizabeth Tunnel coming through to make sure the aqueduct can continue to run after a event on the San Andreas Fault. So this is one of a number of pieces that we're doing, and in each case looking at the conditions, at the pressure requirements, the flow requirements, and how much movement we have to accommodate for. We're always trying to do our best to pick the right tool as far as materials go, and at the same time make sure that we have the ability to do it ourselves. Because it's not only installing it, but when you're installing, you also know how to repair it. And when an emergency happens, if it's a large-scale emergency, we have to stand on our own 2 feet as we have in the past. So we need to be very familiar with the material. And so we want to make sure that as things go in, we know exactly how to deal with it properly.
No, I applaud that strategy, and I also applaud the department for being open to using different materials as it deems appropriate. So thank you.
Dr. Pickle.
Kubota is the sole source for this pipe right now. Has any other U.S. manufacturer talked about licensing their technology or having competing technology?
There are competing technologies being developed. They do not have the capacity as this. There are differences that make a significant, they are significantly important when you're looking at very critical pipelines.
Craig, in response to that, for the large diameter joint that we have on the board later on, there are there's several companies that put something out there. We picked what we believe was the one that fits our situation the best. Is that correct?
Let me rephrase that, Marty. There are no competing companies for large diameter pipes. This is the only one. So what I was referring to, Dr. Pickle, is only for smaller diameter pipes.
No, I just wondered if there were any people expanding into this area or being a competitor of Kubota that you're aware of?
Yes. As opposed to licensing, to be more direct in responding to your answer, as opposed to licensing, which Kubota has attempted to talk with companies about, they decided to see if they could do better by competing. So we have a self-sustaining, resilient pipe market being developed based on our efforts.
I had a couple questions. When does the technology expire? Is this proprietary?
It's
Is it patented or is it a trade secret?
Well, it's not a secret in the respect that you can see what it is.
No, but you know.
It is patented.
Okay.
And in fact,
when does that
Kubota
expire?
Corporation does have a patent in the United States.
They have a patent on it.
Yes,
And when does that
on
expire?
this. I do not know.
And there are no other competing so we buy ductile iron pipe already, right?
Yes.
And the 54 miles that we have on page 6 that are proposed, how many do we have that are planned to be implemented in the next year? How many
I
miles?
don't know. As far as projects, that would be, I actually personally do not know the schedule of these projects. I'm going to refrain from responding to that. If somebody else knows, maybe.
There's only about 30 miles of pipe a year total right now. We're increasing to 50 miles, but that's for all pipe. So
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm
probably
sorry.
a number of years
I meant 12 miles.
I believe that's over several years.
65,000.
So 4 miles of that will initiate either later this year or early next year on Foothill Boulevard, which includes the 54-inch diameter pipe that's in there and 2 miles of 12-inch diameter pipe. The other schedules, I'm not certain of, though.
And the pipe, there's nothing that's competitive with, maybe how much per mile does ductile iron pipe ordinarily cost with the fittings that go along with it?
I need to defer to somebody
My
else.
understanding was that you said it was this material is 15% more expensive.
Per project. So what I was referring to is trying to make a clear distinction. The material cost is about twice as much. So if you're just buying a piece of pipe, if you're buying the earthquake-resistant ductile iron pipe, it's about twice as much as the non-earthquake-resistant ductile iron pipe. But that's about 4% of a total project. So when you do the math with some other installation rates, it's about 10%, 10 to 15% increase in the actual project cost. It's not twice as much, which people tend to mislead themselves with when you say the material cost is twice as much. The material is actually a very small part of a project cost.
But the material cost is twice as much as the project cost. That's only 15% more.
Correct.
And the idea for us is that this is part of constructing this earthquake resilient backbone that the mayor's resiliency report has identified. And so right now we're not looking to put every pipe in terms of this, but pipes that would transmit, water throughout the city, surround hospitals and other critical facilities where our emphasis is right now. We could put it everywhere. It would drive all our replacement costs up, but the focus is to build a network of resilient pipes so that in the event of an earthquake, we can move water throughout the city into critical areas, in a reliable fashion.
And the department is doing what to encourage new market participants in the resilient pipe, earthquake-resistant market?
We're starting by sharing information on what we're looking for, what is our program, working with other agencies, sharing that with the industry, letting the pipe manufacturers know what we're doing. We're working with the American Society of Civil Engineers to develop a standard so that industry partners would know how to manufacture their pipes so that it would be meeting seismic resistant criteria, and it helps both the engineers and owners to make specifications and the manufacturers to actually identify and develop pipes that meet those requirements. Speaking with them, I probably speak with a pipe manufacturer of some kind once a month at least, if not once a week, coming in and asking what is it you're trying to do, whether it's steel, plastics of PVC, HDPE, ductile iron manufacturers, even concrete pipe manufacturers, all kinds of different things. And we're telling them all the same information on what it is that we're looking for and what we need so that we can develop these networks.
So the important thing, I think, getting to both commissioners' questions is about the competitiveness of all this. The standards is really an important deal because that's where you will develop what these manufacturers need to build around and construct around and design their pipes around. So it's a common standard of what we say when we mean earthquake resistance ductile iron pipe, and they'll be able to bid on that. We will at some point basically just specify that type of pipe as opposed to just going to Kubota. And then the market's going to go where the money is flowing basically. So Craig mentioned there's a number of cities. Those numbers of cities will increase. Our purchase of the pipe will increase, and that will just drive the market. And then you'll start seeing the competitiveness of that particular product go down.
How soon do you think that that'll happen? I've been involved in standard making that
Yeah.
can last forever.
The ASE standards.
Yeah, okay. Well, our schedule is in 2 years to have the first cut, but what we're identifying is what is needed in the pipes, but it turns out that it's a parallel standard is needed that hasn't been initiated yet, and how do the manufacturers actually prove that it meets that? So it needs to be testing standards. Right now we're working with Cornell University, which has the best, probably the best in the world. In fact, it is the best in the world for seismic pipe testing. Even international gas companies and Kubota Corporation has gone there to do the tests, and we have them done on a consistent basis so that for the different types of concepts, they're proven. That needs to be put in the standard as well. So I would imagine that this, more realistically, before standards are made, we'd be talking at least 5, maybe 10 years. Yeah. But we have basically a working practice we're trying to implement.
So basically, so it sounds like we're kind of committing to this type of, this one particular source for the next 5 or 10 years.
Not necessarily. I mean, we picked Kubota just because they're the only one. If somebody else wants to go out, basically, although Kubota wasn't really going out on spec, but if somebody wants to go out on that and start producing, we're open to trying others, because all of these projects that are up on
without violating Kubota's patent.
Right. But there's more than one way to
yeah,
do this.
The patent, I think, more specifically is exactly how the joint is put together. Mm-hmm. So you might imagine there's different ways to allow for, if you're talking about ductile iron pipe, there's different ways to allow for flexibility. So they don't have a patent on adding flexibility. But it's how it can lock into place, and then the forces that it can withstand without pulling past that locking mechanism. There's innovation going on in how that can take place in the ductile iron market. There's that type of ideas now moving into the PVC market, and how they can add the links in their belts and put a locking mechanism that the plastic isn't so flexible that it actually would pull through. So there is innovation going on in the industry that isn't apparently, I'm not a patent expert, but isn't apparently breaking Kubota's patent.
And you know, even though there's not a standard for us to point to in our spec, say it has to meet this standard, we have no problem creating our own standard in our spec in the meantime. So we don't have to wait for a national standard to be able to spec out what we want ourselves. And because we're kind of leading the charge in this, we probably have as good a good idea about what we want as anybody does. So that doesn't slow us down. And as Craig said, we get calls from a lot of vendors that are looking to play in this space. Before this pipe, there was ball and joint pipe. Like we did a lot of our harbor crossings down Terminal Island are a ball and joint pipe, so it has a little bit of flexibility. This whole area is just evolving, and when you really put the earthquake issue into it and look at fault crossings, like as Craig said, this is the first thing of its kind in the country that we're doing. But when you look at that, then it creates a whole new market. So I think we'll see a lot of people looking to improve ideas. Kubota may have an idea that works. It may not be the best idea yet, so we'll see what else comes out. But we can certainly spec out for competition. There's nothing that stops us from doing that here.
In fact, Commissioner, I can explain further that I'm helping to lead the standard, the pre-standard, if you will. And there are a lot of agencies that are saying, well, I think we're just narrowing it down to this pipe, and that pipe. But we have all the pipe manufacturers on this committee to develop this. And I objected to that on behalf of DWP and the country. That's not what we want. What we want is to create innovation for any pipe manufacturer that can develop a system that would meet the needs of what Mother Nature is going to present to us. And we know what Mother Nature has the ability to do. There are engineering standards on how to actually analyze this. And so everybody did agree to do that. So we're writing it in a general way of saying this is what Mother Nature is going to throw to us. The agencies and engineers need to decide what level it needs to be designed for, put that out, and let the manufacturers and their side of engineering come up with the solutions to be presented back to the agencies. So we're hoping that does create competition.
I look forward to seeing it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Craig.
Other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Very helpful and impressive. Thank you. Okay, management report, First Castaic Energy Storage Power Plant Upgrade and Modernization.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to ask Marvin Moon, Director of our Power Engineering Division, and Ken Silver, Director for Power Supply Operations, to come up. We have a presentation on our Castaic Energy Modernization and Upgrade. In 2001, this board approved a repower for Castaic. So, Marvin?
Morning, Commissioners. Today we're going to be talking about a modernization we've done for our energy pump storage facility. It's sort of like our gigantic battery we have in our system. With me is Ken Silver. He's the Director of Power Supply Operations. He's going to be explaining first how the pump storage system works and give a little overview of that.
Okay, I think first we have a little video on. I don't know if there's any sound.
The conversion of energy from flowing water into electricity. It is considered a renewable energy source because the water cycle is constantly renewed by the sun. One of the first uses of hydro energy was for mechanical milling, such as grinding grains. But today, modern hydro plants produce electricity using turbines and generators. The mechanical energy created by moving water spins rotors on a turbine. This turbine is connected to an electromagnetic generator which produces electricity when the turbine spins. There are two main types of hydroelectricity production: dams and run-of-river. Hydro dams utilize the potential energy from dammed water to produce electricity. A dam is a large barrier constructed to raise the level of water and control its flow. The elevation created by the dam creates gravitational force for turning the turbine when water is released. Some dams also contain an additional reservoir at their base where water is stored to be pumped to the higher reservoir for release when electricity is in demand. This is referred to as pumped storage hydro. The second form of hydroelectricity production is run-of-river hydro. Run-of-river still uses turbines and generators, but relies on natural water flow rates of rivers, diverting just a portion of the water through turbines. Because run-of-river hydro is subject to natural water variability, it is more intermittent than dammed hydro. There are various sizes of hydro plants that produce electricity. Large hydro, greater than 30 megawatts, small hydro, 100 kilowatts to 30 megawatts, and micro hydro, less than 100 kilowatts. The Hoover Dam in the United States is a whopping 2,074 megawatts, which is enough to serve 1.3 million people. Of all renewable energy sources, hydropower holds the largest share of worldwide electricity production.
So hydro generation is one of the most valuable generating resources we have. It has some features that other generators don't have, among them being a quick start capability. The generators can come on very quickly when needed. They're also capable of rapid load changes, so they can move around quickly to meet varying demand. And they're also automatically responsive to system fluctuations, loss of other generators or disturbances on the system, so they're very valuable for system reliability. They're one of our best tools for meeting our supply, matching our supply to our demand. They've also taken on a new task of balancing the variable energy resource output of wind and solar. One of the drawbacks of hydro is the limited water availability and restrictions on flow rate, and pump storage helps overcome some of those drawbacks. As was shown in the video, during periods of low demand or when there's excess renewable energy, water can be pumped back up from a lower reservoir to an upper reservoir. In this diagram, you'll see Pyramid Reservoir on the left and Elderberry Reservoir in the center. The water can move back and forth between the two reservoirs without impacting any water storage or water consumers, and we can use that for generating. So Castaic is basically a giant utility-sized storage unit, which again is valuable as our renewable portfolio increases. One thing to point out, though, is that it can't rapidly switch between pumping and generating, so it takes some planning of your portfolio to make this work. So some of the work we're going to talk about today that we've done is to enhance this capability. So I'll turn it over to Marv.
Okay. Castaic itself, it has 6 very large turbines. They're 270 megawatts each. And there's a smaller one, Unit 7 on the side, which is a 55 megawatt. We first built the unit, and it's turned on in 1973. And the repowering effort started in 2001. So it's been 16 years in the making. And thank goodness we see the finish line coming up this summer. Also has a FERC license that's going to be renewed in January of 2022. So we've already started the relicensing process because that's obviously very time consuming. Next slide, please. Okay, so our repowering efforts had 3 goals in mind. First was we had to rebuild the units themselves. They've had a tremendous amount of wear over the years. So they had a big rebuild both electrically and mechanically. The second thing was the controls. They were old, it was hard to get parts, a little clunky, so we wanted to modernize and upgrade the controls and automation for the plant. And third, which we hear about, is increasing the capacity of the plant through working with the water flow. Next slide, please. So on our modernization front, as you can imagine, the things we did was first we rebuilt this thing electrically. We had to change the rotors and the stators and rebuild the turbines, new transformers and likes of that. And there's also a lot of things called balance of plant. They're not directly the generator, but there's things like fire safety, the hydraulic system, other things. There's a station service that keeps the facility energized. Those needed to be looked at as well. Next one. Yeah. Here's some pictures. In fact, these are great pictures. In the upper left corner is a picture of the newer rotors. This is what turns the generators. There's a bunch of nozzles that surround those little blades there, and they squirt in there. They have valves that turn on and off, so you can ramp them up and down. It's a very large, big, almost looks kind of like a flywheel, but it's actually a turbine. On the right is the hole that they work in with the very large cranes to move things in and out. And the one on the lower right, that's Unit 7. It's a little smaller unit, the 55 megawatt unit. The other ones are 250 or 270 megawatts. This one was replaced as well. It's a little different design. On the electrical side, we brought in new transformers. They're gigantic. You can see one of the transformers being brought in the upper right corner. Also, you can see the electrical rotors and stators being placed on the upper left corner. Down in the lower left, there's a picture of the size. There's a man working down there in the hole. And also looking down the bay, you can see what kind of operation it is to lift these units out and set them aside and then work on each of the units one by one.
Marvin, real quick, am I correct that each unit is 65 feet tall, the entire single generator?
That's about right. Yeah, it's huge. Also on the control side, of course, we automated all the units, and we also redid the compressor house and all the balance of plant. We also got a new interface with the Department of Water Resources, and we're on the home stretch for this. All of the units except Unit 2 have been completed. We're going to finish Unit 2 this May, so it's right around the corner. The control rooms could be finished up in August, and the station service is going to be redone in August as well. That'll complete our work.
So that was some of the work that went on inside the plant. Outside the plant, we took advantage of a tunnel outage. Every 10 years, we take the water conveyance facilities out, the Angeles Tunnel. It's a 30-foot tunnel connecting Pyramid Reservoir with the power plant. It was a 37-day outage. We worked 24/7. There were over 300 people working on this. And there were a number of things that we did to improve the plant. One was to install these baffle plates. They're called anti-vortex plates. And what those do is when we're pumping, it prevents those whirlpools like you'll see in a drain from forming, so that it increases our ability to pump. We also, over the years from storms, which we've been seeing again this year, we get a lot of storm runoff, silt and debris. We removed over 500,000 cubic yards of silt and debris from the plant, which improves the flow of water through the channel and also increases the storage capability in the reservoir. We also took advantage to repair and replace valves and pipes and things that are normally underwater during normal operation that you can't get to. And we had the ability to work on that and replace or repair all of these components to make the station more reliable going into the future. So all told, we were able to increase the generation capacity of the plant by 87 megawatts. We've improved the efficiency when the units are running in generate and also in pump. And it gives us, there's quite an annual benefit in that, over $500,000. We've also, by all this work, and the storage increase, we've been able to increase the capacity of the plant by about 5,000 megawatt hours. That's the amount we can generate without even having to pump. So it allows us to extend the runtime during the high load periods and then take advantage of the low load periods to pump the water back. And of course, we had many partners in our in this activity. There were over 400 workers in the overall project, 300 in the tunnel outage, but over 400 workers from throughout the department and in all the disciplines that were involved in this job. Any questions?
After you.
No. I appreciate that, Dave. I'm familiar with the project, and I appreciate all of the work that you've done there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I likewise, and wanted to show appreciation for Mr. Silver. Mel brought up the fact that somebody in the audience was extending his retirement date. Mr. Silver, for those of you who don't know, and you might know, if you don't know, you'll know now, has been working for us, I think, for at least 4 additional years beyond. He doesn't have to be here, and and he loves his job, and I think that he's an exemplary employee because he never, I think I might be embarrassing him now, but he never asked for a recognition or anything, and I think that it's people like, it's Ken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Ken Silver, who really are role models for the next generation, and he saw to it that he saw the retirement coming, and he decided to invest in the enterprise future instead of, going around the world or doing whatever else he could have done. And I wanted to personally thank you, and I probably speak on behalf of this board as extending my appreciation for the work that you have done and continue to do. And anything we can do to keep you another 4, let me know.
Well, and I want to
Commissioner.
thank Commissioner Funderburk for pointing that out. Look, we can't begrudge people retiring when they have the opportunity to do so, but on the other hand, having the expertise and experience of people like Mr. Silver who have foregone retirement in order to continue to contribute extremely important knowledge to the department is invaluable. And so I think all of us focus on how much we appreciate it when that occurs. And so I join Commissioner Funderburk in complimenting and thanking you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, if I could add, we have many managers in the power system who have made that commitment. Mr. Moon himself is a few years past his ability to retire.
He looks too young.
And has chosen to stay on and help us. So
That's great.
Thank Marvin as well.
Well, it's greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Terrific report. Very important and very appreciated.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioners.
you. Lead sampling at K-12 schools.
So the state of California has placed new requirements on domestic water suppliers to sample lead at K through 12 schools upon request. This customer class is one of our largest, so we thought it, in terms of just customer service and responding to this regulation, we thought it would be good. Schools have, and their water use have often been a topic of conversation here at the board, and water quality is also always important, especially when it concerns our children. So I've asked Albert Castellan and Melinda Rowe to come and give a presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Well, this is a new initiative come down just this January. So in January, the State Water Resources Control Board issued a formal water supply permit amendment to purveyors, including ourselves, that establishes requirements for lead monitoring and lead sample testing and interpretation for schools K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade schools that we serve, and most importantly, that submit a written request to us. So in doing so, the state once again acknowledges the Safe Drinking Water Act's intent to ensure that water delivered by public water systems is at all times pure, wholesome, and drinkable. And that protecting children from lead exposure of any source is important to their lifelong good health. So in doing that, so we talked about protection from exposures to lead, but also concerns over drinking water as a source in light of Flint and some events over in Texas as well. Lead testing, again, is still voluntary as it is now for schools, and the state used their authority to amend the water permit.
Okay.
No. Next slide, please. So again, we have about 1,500 public and private schools that we serve. So that is kind of the realm that we're exposed to as far as requests. Schools must make their requests prior to November of 2019. At that point, I think there will be a revision to the current lead copper rule, which will then have some sort of a mandate for schools, but we're not quite sure at this point. So DWP will collect samples and test for lead. We will report those results to schools and to the state, and we will then provide an advisory role should their levels be above the action level of 15 parts per billion. And we'll advise them on any corrective actions, what we feel could be how best and efficiently they can make those corrections. And the testing and the sampling costs are borne by the public water system in our case.
Excuse me, is this testing being done at the tap or at the drinking water fountain point, or is it being done at DWP's junction point?
No, it's actually at their school
At the
taps.
point of ingestion?
Up to five drinking fountains, and we would plan, when they make a request, we would then strategize as to where and what fountains they would want tested. So obviously the ones that have the most use, they want to clear.
So it's the fountain water that's
Yes,
actually
it
being
is.
tested?
And same thing, first draw overnight. You got to wait at least 6 hours and then take a first draw, just like the lead copper rule type of testing.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Melinda.
All right. Good morning, commissioners.
That one.
The permit amendment was issued in January of this year, and we got an inkling of it back in November, but the details were rather sketchy. But once it came out in January, we summarized the requirements and prepared a plan. Under the permit, we're required to identify how many schools we actually serve in the LA DWP service area, and right now it's close to 1,500. That includes public and private schools, and the ones specifically K through 12. So that excludes colleges and like trade tech schools and preschools. Schools are the ones to initiate the request. It is voluntary on their part, but if they make the request, then we are obligated to assist them and to do the sampling and testing. According to the permit, we have a total of 90 days to respond to a school's request, but given that we have 1,500 in our service area, if they should all start asking at once, it may be difficult to meet it, but we're committed to meeting that schedule as closely as possible. One of the things we're trying to do is work with some of the larger school districts, and certainly LAUSD is one, to utilize their resources and our resources to make the most effective use of this program. Like I said, after we sample, we will get the results to the schools within 10 business days, but if any of the sample taps are above the action level of 15 parts per billion, we would notify them immediately, and then we would either schedule a resample, or we would, if they decide they want to remediate, we'll hold off until they actually take some remediation action for that tap and then resample.
Are we taking samples at the same time at the point for which that we bear responsibility, which is just to get a background sample to make sure that it's clear that it's on the district it's their responsibility, so they don't come back at us and point their finger at DWP?
We have considered that. What we plan to do is the initial, the requirement is up to 5 sample taps within a school, and so we are going to work with the school authorities to pick the 5 most used faucets. They could be in the cafeteria, they could be out on the campus.
No, I'm sorry.
And then depending on if we get...
Melinda, the question is...
Yes, if we get a positive...
No, it's how are we going to know that it's not from our distribution system outside the school boundary?
Right, that's what I was going to say, that because of the efforts that we're going to be involved in trying to get first draw samples in the morning, we're going to do that if any of those samples exceed the action level. Then when we go back to collect the repeat, we will also collect a system sample, that demonstrates what's in our distribution system and going to that school.
Don't we sample our distribution system anyway?
We do,
on a
routinely.
regular basis?
Yes.
Is it daily or monthly or what?
It's periodic, usually once every 3 years, and then we do it for a quarterly basis for that year. But we sample throughout the system. We sample whenever customers call and ask or are concerned about lead. We would sample our system as well, so we can show that it's not coming from our side.
And when does this have to be implemented?
It began starting January 17th. We've actually only gotten 1 request so far, and that's from the LAUSD. They've asked us to sample some charter schools that are part of their, under their jurisdiction. As you know, the LAUSD has actually done their extensive lead testing about 8 years ago, but these charter schools are not included in that. So they've asked us to go ahead and sample those schools so that they will have a record of any detectable lead in their taps. Once we get the results, the schools, like I said, have 60 days to take any additional action to inform the parents, and during that time we will hold on to the data and leave it to them to inform. After that point, then we will report this information to the state database, and it will become public information. Oh. Okay, as far as our preparation, we have developed a detailed flow chart on how to manage the requests and to track them. We will have, we've requested for, I guess it's e-respond to help us to track, just like we do an outage complaint. They would have a separate set of tracking system specifically for lead requests from schools, so that we can ensure that all of the time schedules have been met, and that no school gets left behind or missed.
What kind of outreach have we done on this? It sounds a little odd that only one is requested.
Well,
but it's
we ourselves have not done outreach yet. We plan to post something actually this week on our website, because we've been working to making sure we had everything in place before we did that. The State Department Division of Drinking Water did post 2 media releases within the last month regarding this, and then the State Board of Education also issued a media release. So there has been distribution of this information.
So the request applies to, it's the district that requested, so it's LAUSD, it's not the individual schools, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and then you work out with the district, how many of the, I'm sorry, so I missed that. So you work out with the district, how many of the individual schools the testing program will reach?
That's correct. Like I mentioned, they've already done their testing, and they're actually in remediation part of the program. So what they've asked us to do is maybe help to validate some of the areas where they have remediated to confirm that the lead levels are low.
Well,
and then
I think the charter school issue is not insignificant, right? Because I was reading that, 20% 20% of the LAUSD's, what is it, 750,000 or 700,000 students are charter students now. Isn't that about right?
I think that's the total for LAUSD.
That's the total.
Total for LAUSD, but 20% of that is what isn't the charter number about 20% now?
Could be larger.
It could be.
Maybe
We're
a
not.
third?
We're not sure. We're compiling the database of all the schools, and then we're confirming them with other known databases to ensure that we don't miss anyone. And this also includes private schools as well. So as the requests come in, we will address them swiftly and as efficiently as possible.
Because the populations between 0 and 5 are probably the most sensitive receptors, how about preschool, since there's mandatory? Isn't there mandatory preschool or something approaching it? How about preschool?
That's not in the permit amendment. It just says K through 12, but we're more than willing to test any school that.
And we've got some requests from some of the schools in Watts following our flushing out, and then we've done some testing for preschools.
That's correct. So with our testing potential of 1,500 schools and about 800 of them being LAUSD, there is a significant amount of private schools that are out there. But knowing with LAUSD that we had the potential for just a huge avalanche of requests, we did reach out to them well ahead, a month and a half ahead, just so that they knew this was coming, and they saw it on the radar themselves, and knew could strategically make any requests. But again, as Melinda said, they already knew their world as far as which fountains, which areas were already targeted.
Well, I'm a big believer in being proactive, so to the extent that we can continue the outreach efforts that we're already making, I would be very supportive of that, and don't want to thank you for, even though it's before the end, I want to thank you for the work that you did. I think that this is just another example also of DWP and local action taking place. We don't know what the federal regulations are going to read like in the next year or two. Nobody's going to predict that, but I think that
there aren't going to be any.
my point exactly. So I assume that regardless whether there's some mandate at the federal level, we're going to continue with this, correct?
Yes, and as Albert said, if any preschool were to request it, we would absolutely work with them.
Thank you.
So,
Commissioner Barad.
Thank you. It seems somewhat counterintuitive to say that we're protecting children from exposure to lead, but the lead testing is voluntary.
I think there was resistance from the Board of Education to make it mandatory. There is a cost associated with the testing. I totally agree with you. It's better to know if you have any faucets that are high, but it really is going to be the responsibility of schools to determine that.
The individual schools or LAUSD?
Well, in the case of LAUSD, it would be the district, yes.
So you're saying that the district itself could change that so that it would be every school, not just voluntary?
LAUSD has already sampled every single school in their 800 schools, and I believe every faucet in every school. So they have a pretty comprehensive database that even goes beyond what this voluntary program is about.
So what part of it is voluntary? Is that the private school?
It's voluntary on the school's part.
On the school's site?
Make a request.
All right, well,
so
there's something seems not right with that.
Again, this is a directive by the state, and it's just basically telling the schools that you can now go to your local water purveyor and have them test lead for you for free. So the mandate comes on us that we're to say yes to anybody that comes and asks for sampling.
All right, anyone who asks for it, who makes the request.
Right.
But if someone's child goes to school in LAUSD and the school itself is not requesting.
Yeah, again, all of LAUSD, all of their fountains have been tested, and they already had a remediation program going on, and they've already basically, I don't know what the correct term, but red tagged those fountains that are producing lead. So they've, under their own program, taken care of themselves. And so, but not all school districts throughout the state of California have done that. So the state has basically, the way they're encouraging school districts to do this is removing the impediment of any kind of financial cost or resources in the ability for any particular school, public or private, K through 12, to have their local water purveyor do that sampling and testing for them.
All right, well, as you might know, I've been discussing this at the commission for probably over a year and a half about the water and the water fountains. And I was told by LAUSD that they go to every water fountain and they test it for 30 seconds a day in the morning.
They'll flush it, yeah.
They flush it. And I asked, and continue to ask, what do they do with that water? And I was told by the school district that it just goes down the drain. Now, I understand that we're not in the same drought situation today as we were a year and a half ago or a year. But just because it's not as urgent to save water today, it doesn't mean that it's not an issue. And I still ask the same question. When they flush the water fountains, what happens to the water?
Penny Falcon has an update on that program.
Hi, good morning, commissioners. So what we've done with that bucket brigade is last year we outreached to all the schools at LAUSD. We partnered with them and talked about and had a water conservation contest for the whole year.
Well, I just have to say, Penny, and it's disappointing to me that after all the time that I, as a commissioner, put into this and all the meetings I held, that the bucket brigade was not what was originally intended. It was never intended to be a contest and offering money. The whole idea was the children would learn conservation by taking buckets, and then when they flushed the water fountain, they would have the bucket of water, and then they would use it to irrigate plants or trees or whatever on that campus. And that was going to be in conjunction with neighborhood councils. Unfortunately, that program never got off the ground for I don't know what reasons. And so the bucket brigade, as was envisioned some time ago, never really happened. So now we have still flushing water fountains, and what are we doing with that water? Are we still flushing them down the drain?
Well, LAUSD has improved and are changing out those faucets and adding new conservation type faucets at the schools, and they're looking to reduce and shut off, I think, about a third of them that are currently being flushed are going to be shut off this spring, and then they'll continue to repair and replace the other ones for the rest of the year. But on your bucket brigade, we haven't lost your bucket idea. We couldn't get the entire school behind, because we weren't flushing at all the schools. LAUSD isn't. It's only certain schools that have the flushing. So they wanted to have this conservation contest since we were in a huge drought across all of the schools. So those awards are moving forward. They had a lot of great ideas at all the schools. The kids really caught on to how to use water efficiently and brainstormed ideas outside the box that we are very excited about. But for the buckets themselves, we are going to continue moving that contest along, or moving that education piece of it along this year, and making sure that people understand that, when you do flush something or, need to run water even in your house, you can use this bucket, capture it, and then go put it on your trees outside. So the idea is not lost, and we will keep you engaged on that, Commissioner.
All right, well, they told me, the school district, that they had a 5-year plan. They expected all the fountains to be tested in 5 years. And then I said, well, what are you doing with all the water between now and 5 years? And that was when they said it just goes down the drain. So are you saying that now all the fountains have been tested? They're not doing this anymore? They're not flushing them anymore?
Well, as Melinda said, they have been tested. LAUSD has tested all the fountains already, and
every one, every school?
Right. And now they're changing out that 5-year plan, and I think it's more, I think they only have about a year and a half or 18 months left, but it's for changing out the fountains, the ones that did need to be changed out. And it's not all the schools, it's only those that still require it, because they've been planning and doing this retrofit for some years now.
And they're going to be changing them out?
Yes.
All right, well, I'm sorry, I just don't feel that I've gotten an adequate response to what they're doing with the water when they flush. It sounds to me like now, with this program, they're going to be flushing more water fountains. And what are they going to do with that water as they flush?
For the testing, you mean?
For the testing.
They wouldn't necessarily be flushing more. They already know which ones they have to flush.
So they're not going to test anymore?
If they wish to do so and have us retest, we will. But just because we're testing, it would only confirm what they already know, put it that way. So they're already flushing the fountains that they could not eliminate because of high use, and that's why they're flushing those. So I don't think this adds anymore.
But for instance, like the charter schools, if we test the charter schools, if we do find evidence of high lead, then the school will have to look at what they're going to do, if they're going to keep a fountain in use. If they are, they're going to make a hardware exchange, and then that'll bring up opportunities for, in the meantime, what happens with that water. Because if they find high lead use, and typically it's the water that sits, that accumulates lead over time, that has to be flushed in the morning. So there could be new schools. We don't know yet, depending on the age of the schools and the age of the plumbing. There could be new schools that have to do something in the meantime while they're waiting replacement. And certainly, as we get requests in and do the testing, if they come up with having to have changes, the conservation unit was certainly working with the schools to try to do something with that water rather than just flush it and go to waste every day. But right now, we don't know the new ones. We only know the universe of what we've been working with LA Unified for a number of years, and that number continues to go down and down and down in terms of flushing as they make those replacements.
Well, we don't know about the private schools yet either.
Right, and so, and it's tough because, in a perfect world, we'd go in there and test, and whether anybody liked it or not. In the past, one of the things the schools have done testing because they have control of the data then. And so this not only provides that we would have any school has an avenue to be tested, but also the public has an avenue to know the results. And so I think it's good on both those counts. But at the same time, the state's making it available to the schools, but not forcing the schools to do it. Now, that could change with the lead and copper rule changing. Certainly, we're doing our own outreach to do private testing for any private party that wants it. Is a big gear up for us in terms of staffing and knowing that we have the ability to do testing, whether it's a preschool or someone's private home or an apartment building where someone has a concern, they have no control over the water supply once it's inside the apartment building. So this is a big growth area for us. But in this case, the state's put a system in place to enable the schools to get tested without incurring other costs, and paid by the water utility, but also makes ultimately those results become public too.
Is there some data somewhere that would show all the schools that have been tested in LAUSD, and also those that took part in these water conservation contests? And I mean, I feel like I don't know any resolution for any of that. And how are they conserving water?
Well, I can give you the list of the schools that participated in the conservation outreach we did this last year.
Okay, that would be helpful, because I know when we started this, we talked about doing this in the hottest part of the district, which was the valley, and we had that set up. That didn't happen. So I'm curious to see where they had this program and what the result of it was.
Yes, no, absolutely. I'll fill you in.
Would you get that to me?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The results of the LAUSD lead testing is posted on their website, and you can go by school.
It's on what?
It's on the LAUSD website.
Well, I'd like a hard copy of it, please.
Okay. We'll try to get that to you. And also, the last time we met with them, they informed us that they've been able to eliminate 300 schools out of their 800 and no longer flush now, because they've confirmed that the whatever fountain need to be remediated has been, and as Penny said, they have another 18 months to go. Hopefully they'll finish up the rest of it.
So they're flushing in the next 18 months?
Yes, for those schools they have not yet addressed, they're still flushing.
Okay, so here's this question. I think this is now the 5th time. What are they doing with that water?
Yeah.
How are they conserving that water?
I think what we've done is I don't know if we've done everything we can, but we've short of everything we can to encourage them, to provide programming for them, for schools to get involved. But in the end, we can't go on the campuses and do that. It wouldn't be our place. At some point, it has to be the school district that's responsible for conserving that water.
Well, yes, it has to be the school system, which has not taken the lead.
Right.
And when we worked together, and it was a partnership with the DWP and with the schools,
right.
And we really had a program, and that I thought, I want to go on record saying that I think we need to revisit that and have that program in effect, because we're really losing not only valuable water, we're losing time on this.
So we'll get you the feedback on what's going on so far, and any prognosis for the future.
It was DWP, this commission, that asked the question of LAUSD, what are you doing with are you in fact running the water fountains? Yes. And we discovered that we were losing something like 60,000 gallons of water. That's a lot of water. And then we developed the program, that Bucket Brigade, and so we were really doing the leadership of that. And, unfortunately, we didn't have cooperation from the school district.
You can lead a horse to water.
Pardon me?
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them conserve it, right?
They are horses.
Well, in continuing on then, in our advisory role, we can most definitely assist by keeping our eye out for grants and any other sort of funding that is available should they have a huge burden on their hands. Things such as water filters that do remove lead or keep lead from entering through the tap, and also bottle filling stations. We have several models that we could assist as far as pointing out. But again, all the corrective action costs are on the owner at that point. That would be the school. So our assistance is then limited to the actual taking of the sample, testing the sample, reporting it, and then providing this advisory role. But we still do have within Water and Power our outreach and our assistance to make water available in public places, such as putting up drinking water fountains in public spaces.
Thank you very much.
I think that's it.
Thanks. Yeah. Good. Okay, I would propose that we hold off going into closed session until we maybe we can deal with some of the open session items and let those people who may be waiting to see if their item will require any debate find out whether they will. So if there's no objection, I'd like to go to agenda item 11, approval of the minutes, and then go to the next open items and see which of those we can keep on the consent calendar and which we can't. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the board meeting 1st of January 3rd. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Second, although there's a problem. It was only Levine, Noonan, and Fleming who were here, so we'll wait till Fleming will be here fairly soon, and we'll deal with that then. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the board meeting of January 17th?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. Those are approved. Do any commissioners wish to remove any of the items between item 12 and item 35 from the consent calendar?
I have to recuse from 35.
Okay, we will remove 35 for Commissioner Funderburk's recusal. Any others? Do I have a motion to approve items 12 through 34?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those are approved. Commissioner Funderburk, will you go recuse yourself for 35? Is there a motion to approve 35?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
That's approved.
You're back already.
Okay, that's good. We will now go to, well, let's see. Let's take the monthly reports before the closed session and see if we can dispense with them. Item 9A, monthly report, power system, December.
I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? No questions. Good report. Thank you. Water system, July of 2016. Did we miss that somehow?
No, we're just a bit behind. We have a plan to get back up. Probably we'll do double reports now for the next.
We won't ask you for more details of that plan. Questions to Mr. Harisick on the July water system report? Hearing none? Welcome. Good timing.
You need my vote for something.
I do, actually. For approval of the minutes, a very high stakes item. Financial Services Organization Activities Report for November of 2016.
The report is filed. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? No questions. CAO report, January 2017.
Happy to answer any questions.
Good report. Thank you. RPS projects report, December.
Any questions?
Appear to be no questions. Very non-inquisitive group today. Reports for informational purposes. Quarterly status report on water quality regulatory compliance project, second quarter, October 1 to December 31, 2016. Any questions? No questions? And board recognition, well, I think we've dealt
Which we
that.
did, yes.
We dealt with that one. Barbara, discussion with neighborhood council representatives on any neighborhood council resolution or community impact statement filed with the city clerk which relate to any agenda item listed or being considered on this agenda for the Water and Power Board.
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's agenda.
Okay, I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the January 3rd, 2017 meeting. The potential movers and voters are Fleming, Noonan, and Levine.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those were approved. We will now move to the closed session. Council, magic words.
Pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957, we will recess into closed session at this point, and we will report any reportable final actions taken thereon at the conclusion.
Thank you.